Hi, I'm Jeremy Crosby.
And I'm Nick Boucher. We're your hosts for the program that's all about your city, Talking Fitchburg.
Every weekday, we pull together the news, events, and information you need to stay on top of what's happening in the city of Fitchburg.
Find Talking Fitchburg on cable TV, Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, and our live stream on the web. Plus, you can find all our headlines and stories on Facebook, YouTube, and our video on demand service. This is your city.
Keep up with Talking Fitchburg and the issues affecting you and your neighbors.
Want to know what's happening in your city? Get Notify Me messages from the City of Fitchburg. Visit fitchburgwi.gov on your computer or mobile device and select the big Notify Me button on the left. Enter your email and/or phone number, whichever is best for you to get notifications. Scroll down the list and select all the topics you're interested in to receive email or text messages about. You'll be notified every time one of your topics is updated. Sign up for Notify Me, one more way to keep up with your Fitchburg government.
Me?
Ready to go.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, the time is 5:03 p.m. on Wednesday, March 12, 2025. We'll call this meeting to order. The first order of business would be approval of the January 16th, 2025 Personnel Committee meeting minutes. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Is there any further discussion?
Did any of us?
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. I don't believe we have any public appearances for non-agenda items. So we will jump to our only item tonight, which is our employee engagement survey results. And this was something I was excited about when Sarah first talked about it. So I didn't just want to miss the opportunity for us to gather here and hear some of the highlights, some areas of strength. Also hear how what the city, if you've developed any action plans around like some of the things that may derive out of these survey results, and then also connecting it to council and how we can better be partners together based on some of the data that was found, or if there are new things or new other ways that we can work together to effectively serve the city of Fitchburg.
Thank you, Donald. So late January, we rolled out the city's first employee engagement survey. We had it open from January 27th to February 7th. We had about 138 staff of 255 total that responded. I did a breakdown by full-time equivalency, so you could see how many full-time staff, how many hourly, how many of our paid-on-call firefighter staff, and then our permanent part-time staff. So that kind of gives you a little more of a breakdown of who participated. It's our first engagement survey, so we do hope that with each survey that we give every year that participation rate will increase. You're going to see our overall favorability was 62.5%. What is favorability? So that's the percent of total responses that are either agree or strongly agree. And that's for all the questions. And I wanted to show you how we compare. So if you look at public employers in general, the average is 57.7% for overall favorability on an engagement survey. And then it's 65.7% for best places to work in the public sector. So we're actually doing pretty well. You can see we're over other public employers, and we're almost with what the best places to work for the public sector has for engagement.
So comparably, Sarah, like public sector would include like government, schools, hospitals.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay.
Not just local government. You got it.
Okay.
And engagement, what is it? So really it's, the simple definition is how someone feels passionate about the work that they do in the organization that they work for. With the Quantum, the provider that we use for the engagement survey, they've identified, it's the work you do, it's the department you work in, and also the organization and what they're all about. So as we go into that, these are the engagement outcomes. So these 9 questions that they've identified are kind of at the core of how an organization measures employee engagement. Measuring the engagement outcomes is like taking a patient's temperature. You know, if there's a fever, you know that they're sick, they're not doing well, but you don't know, you know, what they have, what led to that. So using the high impact questions that are going to be on the next slide, that helps to prepare us to take action to either maintain or enhance the results that we're looking at right now. So you can look here, they've got those 3 questions related to, you know, your department work, and then the organization as a total, and then the work you actually do. So you can see there's a column over there that says comparison. That would have figures in it if we already had given an engagement survey, but because it's our first one, we have nothing to compare it to. So going on that, these are the high impact questions. So these questions really can contribute to whether or not someone wants to stay with the city of Fitchburg. The high impact questions presented, they have a strong relationship with the engagement outcome question. So a strong positive relationship indicates that employee high impact question responses tend to rise and fall together with engagement outcome responses. So for example, if somebody receives a sufficient opportunities to be able to grow in their position, they're more likely to tell people that this is a great place to work. So this is one of my favorite screens. So this is going to break down what we're doing really well in and where we have some opportunities to improve. So we have a lot of staff that feel my immediate manager cares about me as a person. I feel accepted by my immediate coworkers. I understand how my job helps the organization achieve success. I find my work engaging, and my immediate manager cares about my development. Those are all great engagement factors there. The questions below the red line are ones that we really need to work on. So you can see the percentages there are pretty low. Those are, I understand the organization's plans for future success. When the organization makes changes, I understand why. I am paid fairly. If I contribute to the organization's success, I know I will be recognized. And then lastly, I have opportunities for advancement or promotion at this organization. Any questions so far before I move on?
Do we have any of these analog answers from other municipalities?
We can, yes. So we can compare it specifically, like a certain question to another public sector in their system, or the best places to work for public sector. So you can break it down question by question to see how we scored.
Have we done
that for one?
No ones?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
We're just starting to be looking at action planning, and one of those requirements before we get into action planning is really focusing on those lower scored questions. So we're going to do that in April. So we have not had a chance to even dig into this yet. A small group of us did go through all the comments. There were probably like 600 plus comments, and started to tabulate, you know, what people were looking for, and maybe a few trends here and there if there's quite a bit of responses that have the same. Like compensation, that was that was a big trend in the comments, is that I don't feel like I'm paid fairly, or that the compensation's too low.
Go ahead, Donald.
I'm sorry?
Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was just going to ask you, you kind of answered my question when you were speaking, Sarah. So with the I am paid fairly, with it being so low, is it that we're not on pace with other potential municipalities, or is it that working in the public sector is just paid less than we know if they were to leave and go into the private sector? Did any of the qualitative data kind of come out and speak to that a little more?
That specifically we haven't really dug into. I can tell you we just did a market update maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and that's where we updated all of the pay plan and made sure that it was competitive. We had a consultant look at it. So I feel like our pay is pretty competitive. If people are leaving organizations to go to other public sectors or other local government, I'm finding it's because they're promotional opportunities. So we've lost people who've just been able to leave here and get a higher level position at a neighboring municipality. But it's typically not because it's just higher pay and they're just going to the same equivalent position that they hold here.
Sir, correct.
And I'm, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Chad. Go ahead.
To that, if I could, Donald. Sir, correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, but if I recall correctly, that pay plan was fully implemented and approved by the Common Council after that review. And I guess I would also add that it probably varies by survey respondent as to what equates to fair pay in their particular situation, their role with the city, what they might see in the market, and those sorts of things. So it could be a little bit challenging to truly get to dig deep enough to know exactly what was creating that level of response there, just because of the varied reasons as to why someone may feel that way.
Okay. Yeah. And I guess with the last one, the opportunities for advancement or promotion, are we just a victim of the law of large numbers, and that we don't have a lot of, like, we're a small municipality, so there isn't a lot of advancement available, versus individuals just not having the opportunity to do so?
Yeah, we have made strides in the past to add career ladders, like to our engineers and to the police. We've had, like at the command staff, the assessing department. So we're looking at ways we can provide that room for advancement, but it is hard. When you're only an employee base of 255 employees, it gets challenging because you only have so many staff in each department, so having room for growth can be difficult. But yeah,
Gotcha.
I do find
And
that's an issue.
is that connected to like staff retention at all? Are we seeing that? Because it would make sense if this number is lower, like the 34%, but we're seeing people's retention percentage in certain roles higher. Like folks are staying longer, which would make sense that this number would be the converse of the opposite. So are we seeing that too, or did we not look, or has that not been delved into a little bit more yet?
Yeah, I haven't delved into that, but I can tell you, we've probably had a handful of people in the last 6 months that have left for promotional opportunities. I think of a couple of people in our public works. One went to be a street superintendent, one went to be a director of building maintenance. We just lost someone in our assessing department that went for a promotional opportunity in a different department for the city of Madison. So I think it's a definite reason that we're losing people. But yeah, we really just started getting these results and started putting this all together. But the true action planning won't start till April.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah.
From an anecdotal perspective, those that you just brought up,
Yeah.
when they're leaving to go somewhere else for that promotional opportunity, is that normally a role that a municipality our size has like one of?
Exactly.
Okay.
So if, for example, a street superintendent, if he wanted to be that, he'd have to wait for the street supervisor to leave or the head of public works. So you could be waiting for a long time. So depending on how many years your department head has, it can be really hard to get into that high level position. So then they just start looking elsewhere. On this last slide here, so what we're going to do next, so we have manager training in April to show everybody got access to the system, our software system, so they're able to see their department results, which is kind of interesting. And if they have 4 or less department members or 4 or less people that responded, they can't see their department, they can only see the overall. But basically, we're going to be working with the managers on looking at their strengths and then opportunities, and then as a team decide how we're going to, what we want to do for action. They do suggest that we do up to 2 action items for the year. If you take on too many, you're not going to get a good job of getting it all done. So the action planning in the software system is pretty neat. What they do is they automatically identify your 3 lowest categories, and then you can generate AI ideas or even make your own, utilize staff input. Some of the ideas based on our low engagement was like feedback forums, idea incubator sessions, and even things like collaborative policy review where you have different people from different departments all being part of looking at policy changes. So a lot of good stuff in there. So yeah, hopefully by the May Personnel Committee, we might even have identified an action item or 2. I'm not sure the speed of things right now, but I can bring an update to the next Personnel Committee meeting on that.
Great. Thank you. Sarah and Chad, were there any questions around like council or people's perceptions of the relationship with staff to us, or did anything come out where there were things where we could potentially do better with communication or reaching out or anything like that? Just curious, because I know that was a big discussion on one of the days when we did our strategic planning session. So I just wanted to see if it came out again.
We did get some comments on council, but the survey was addressed to senior leadership as staff members. So if people had comments on how senior leadership can work better together with staff, it was meant to be like on a staff, not as council. But we did have people that provided some comments on council, so I can certainly put those together into like a nice little summary for you and share that.
Oh, cool. I was just curious, what people said, and if there was anything, mainly that we can continue to better serve not only the residents. I think staff gets bypassed a little bit, and if you're not in the building or interacting with, folks like you or Tad, who's at our regular meetings, it can seem kind of disingenuous, like we don't really notice people. It's always like a hi and bye thing, or you just see people in passing. So I just wondered if that spilled over into the culture and climate of the individuals working in the building as well.
Yeah, there's definitely some comments. So I think we find it helpful to see some of that. I can work with Chad and we can put a little summary together. Absolutely.
We have that. And it doesn't need to be anything like formal. Like I'm not trying to add more work to either of your slate. It could be something as simple as just kind of just letting us know, and worth maybe taking a committee of the whole meeting, like maybe a section of one of those, and just talking about what the engagement between staff and council could look like and how we can better serve one another, something like that too.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Joe. You good?
Off top, Sarah, do you have any just insight on it right now that you want to share? The Donald's question.
I want to read through them again. It's been probably a solid 3 weeks or so since I went through every single comment. So I'd rather make sure. I know there was one specifically, if department heads come to you with, thoughts or suggestions, I think it was related to the police facility, is to trust the input from the staff that are bringing forth the ideas. I know that came up, but I can't recall. I'd have to really put a summary for you.
Can I have a snack?
No.
Okay.
I had a question around you mentioned if somebody has 4 people or fewer than 4 people, then they don't see their department responses, which makes sense because you can easily identify and pick out, and I've had that too. Are you able to look over those and make sure that clearly if there's a glaring issue where there are below average scores, or on the positive side, if you're all these people are super happy, what's happening here that we could replicate in other departments? Just wanted to ask if someone's.
We can't see that. So unfortunately, we can't see anything with 4 or less, even as with administrator access. But,
okay.
But we can see the overall. So we can see department to department. We can compare them. So we can see when there's really high performing departments versus lower.
Okay.
So then we can kind of read all those comments.
This is not the new season.
It's okay.
Gotcha. And Nicole, did you have another question or anything?
It's almost done.
Were you done, Nicole? I didn't want to cut you off.
I'm so sorry. I was being told that this isn't the new season of Hot Wheels, so I think my questions are done.
I was just curious. Last question, or my last question is, so in the column where you all had the delta symbol and the comparison, is there a built-in mechanism to make sure we're comparing the cohorts to the same people if they stay in longevity, and the ways to identify new individuals, so who's bouncing out, and you're once you have the comparisons and the snapshot, you're kind of looking at least most of the same people instead of different folks, in case people move around from department and things like that as we're looking at these over time?
I don't recall. I'd have to.
A question for quantum, probably.
That's more of a question for quantum. What we can see is flight risk. So we can see, we can't see the names of the employees, but we can see where those employees are, where they are ready to go right now. So then, and what department they're in, so that we can try to focus effort. So that's kind of an interesting feature of it. But I'd have to explore that question with quantum a little bit, Donald.
Gotcha. Cool.
Copies.
But that's all I had. Joe, Nicole, anybody else in the room? Little Vafadaris, any questions?
Nope, they're good. It's okay.
Absolutely. Well, if there's no more announcements, what was our next meeting date, Sarah?
Yeah, so we meet again in May, and usually I think it's like the second Wednesday out of May. Here, I can. Jack, can you check your calendar?
Yep, I will do that.
Thank you.
The second Wednesday of May would be the 14th of May.
Okay.
See that?
Cool.
It is on the calendar.
Awesome. Thank you.
Alrighty. Well, if there's nothing else, or anyone didn't have any other announcements, I guess we can entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, nay. We are adjourned. Thank you for Chad and Sarah for putting this presentation together. It was real helpful, and to see the data. I mean, I be in the stuff like all day at work, so it's kind of cool to like see something that you have a connection to for once. That's not like a project. So I appreciate you all showing us this afternoon.
I bet.